In my last video, I built an XLOOKUP formula that returned a single value based on multiple criteria that were selected. In the case that we had earlier, we were using basketball players, and we were returning a single position based on multiple criteria, their team and their name. However, this formula is relatively complex and may be difficult to use for a normal user. So in this video, we're going to take the XLOOKUP formula that we developed in the last video and convert it to a Lambda function called Mlookup, which takes multiple criteria and returns a single value. Are you ready? Let's go!
In this video, we'll be building a new Lambda function, which is able to perform an XLOOKUP-like calculation with multiple parameters. Now, in an earlier video, which I have in the description, we built a formula that does this within XLOOKUP. We looked up the position of the player, even if they exist on more than one team. So when we change Blake Thompson's team from the Space City Strikers to the Mile High Maulers, we see his position change from PF, power forward, to PG, point guard. We do this by changing our XLOOKUP formula. So instead of looking up the player name, we look up the number 1 against a combination of multiplying the player name and team name. This is complicated how it works, and I have a link to another video in the notes explaining how this works. However, this will make up the way that we build our Lambda function, so I'll be leaving that formula up as we build the Lambda. We'll be building the Lambda in the advanced formula environment, so we'll go in there now through Excel Labs. We start by clicking on the plus to create a formula. Our formula will be named Mlookup. This is since it's a multiple criteria lookup, and the description, while optional, will show that we're going to be returning a value from an array based on multiple criteria. Last, we'll set up the arguments. The first will be the return range. This is where we'll be getting the position from. Next is the first lookup value. That's where we're entering the player name to look up. After that is the first lookup array. That's where we'll be looking up the player name from. We put the second lookup value in square brackets. That's because this is an optional parameter, in case we have only one criteria. And we also put the second lookup array in square brackets for the same reason. It's time to move on to the formula. And we'll be comparing our Mlookup with the existing XLOOKUP function that has already been created. So we start with XLOOKUP as our function. And like the XLOOKUP we have made earlier, the lookup for this function is the number 1 followed by a comma. Remember, this isn't the lookup value for the Mlookup function. That will come later when we build the Mlookup array. The next part of the formula is the lookup array, and we're looking to create an array of zeros and ones for the lookup based on our criteria. We start with the 2 negative signs to convert trues and falses to zeros and ones. Then, in brackets, it's the lookup array 1 equals the lookup value 1. And like our existing XLOOKUP formula, we will be multiplying that by another array. This new array is a bit different than our non-Lambda XLOOKUP, since it has optional parameters. We need to start with an if. Then we're going to check if the lookup value 2 is blank. If it is, then we need to ignore this criteria. So we enter the number 1, which would mean that anything which meets the first criteria would automatically match the blank criteria. If there is criteria entered, the same formula is used from lookup value 1. That is, 2 negative signs, and in brackets, lookup array 2 equals lookup value 2. Finally, we complete the XLOOKUP formula, entering the return array. This completes the formula, and we can save the formula and click Done. We're going to test our new formula by looking at another player, Alex Adams. We'll change the team to the Peach State Power. This accurately shows that he is a point guard. Let's try our Mlookup formula in cell F6. We start with what we're returning, that is the basketball player table, positions. Then we select F2 for the name. And we finish with the array we're looking up names from, the basketball player table, player name. We get the same point guard position as with the XLOOKUP. So it works as expected, even with only one parameter. Next, we'll try the same formula with Blake Thompson. We change the name, and immediately, our position on the XLOOKUP, which is looking for both criteria, shows not found. We'll change that to the Space City Strikers, and we see that both formulas return the first case, where he is a power forward. Let's modify our Mlookup formula to see if we can get the second Blake Thompson. We'll add an additional lookup value, the team in cell F3, and we add the basketball player table, team name, as the lookup array. When we change the team to the Mile High Maulers, both the Mlookup and original XLOOKUP match both criteria, and the point guard position is shown. One notable warning about using this Lambda formula is that it doesn't have all the extra features of XLOOKUP added. So, if we change the team to the Windy City Warriors, the XLOOKUP uses the optional if error argument to show a not found. Mlookup, however, does not have that parameter, so it just returns NA. We could add more arguments to the Mlookup, but that could change the aesthetics of the formula, since optional arguments should be at the end of the formula. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video creating a multi-criteria lookup function using a Lambda function. If there are any other functions you'd like to see a Lambda written for, please mention them in the comments. And if you like the video, please throw it a like. It really helps me to see what videos to make more of. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope that you can use what you learned in your own Excel work.